So I put up a Q&A on my Instagram story and a load of people asked me questions, so I'll answer some of the ones I picked. So the first question is, what is your opinion on a slow pull from the floor? Is it flawed compared to a faster pull? For some beginners, I actually recommend them to pull the bar off the floor slowly, intentionally. This can help them focus on the positioning more, which is quite important for the first pull and the snatch and the clean. A common error I see people do is that they rip the bar off the floor, and this can cause their hips to rise faster than their shoulders, which puts them into a bad position for the second pull. So the speed of the first pull doesn't really matter too much, but if it's possible to maintain the correct positions with a fast pull from the floor, that is fine. It's really the speed of the second pull that matters, and that's where you need to move fast. So the next question is, what's your long-term goals for Olympic weightlifting? As you get older, will you transition to powerlifting? I think I will continue doing weightlifting for another few years. I'm 25, so I probably don't have many years left to improve. As you get older, your speed and mobility decreases. So that isn't really good for weightlifting. You can still do it, but it's pretty hard to improve on. But luckily, strength doesn't really decrease as you get older, so I guess as I approach my 30s, I might consider doing powerlifting. So the next question is, how would you program a CrossFitter to gain more strength and be better at the Olympic lifts? I guess the problem with this is that CrossFitters and I guess people that do Olympic lifting, as an accessory for their sport, is that they try to learn weightlifting by practicing it once or twice per week, and that really isn't enough. With weightlifting, high frequency is very important because it's a skill and it needs to be practiced often. What I'd recommend those people do is maybe have a block of training where the primary focus is on improving the Olympic lifts. Maybe a 10-week block where they put 80% of their training into the Olympic lifts and 20% of their training into their sport. That would be way more productive than doing weightlifting once per week year round. And the good news is that once you're finished with a block of training like that, it's quite easy to maintain the majority of your strength and technique with a low frequency of training. So you can go back and focus on CrossFit then. So this next question is from my Patreon, and I'm not going to go through all the questions that were posted on there, so my plan is to actually make another Q&A video just for my Patreon, so stay tuned for that. So this guy asked, how are you doing on your vegan diet? I'm strict carnivore and talk to many ex-vegans who have had to give up their way of eating due to health issues. It would appear that long-term vegan isn't an optimal way to eat. Yeah, I see this opinion often these days, and the thing people don't realize with these ex-vegans popping up is that they're crazy people and their intelligence is definitely below average. People see them as just normal people, and the vegan diet just didn't work for them, but that is definitely not the case. A lot of them are raw vegans or fruitarians, or whatever you want to call them, and that's definitely something I don't recommend at all. When people make a claim the vegan diet doesn't work long term, they need to back it up with evidence. There's a lot of research showing that a vegan diet is suitable for all stages of life. Just talking to ex-vegans who more than likely quit because they didn't plan their diet correctly isn't evidence that a vegan diet doesn't work long term. There's other reasons people quit a vegan diet as well, and it doesn't have to do with health. That was my primary motivation, I guess, behind making all the diet videos I made, because I just wanted to show people how to properly follow a vegan diet. And as for the carnivore diet, that is definitely unhealthy long term. I definitely do not recommend that. I really just don't understand why people are scared of eating vegetables. And the most common question that I got asked is, why don't you compete? The main reason I don't compete is because of the current state of weightlifting. Anti-doping is creating an unlevel playing field. It's extremely corrupt. And since I don't like the current state of weightlifting, like, it makes no sense for me to compete. I can definitely go into a lot more detail about this, like my opinion on anti-doping, but I'll save that for another video. So the next question is, why is the overhead press rarely prescribed in beginner weightlifting programs? Like, in my opinion, it wouldn't be a bad thing to add in the overhead press to a beginner weightlifting program. The primary focus though of like a beginner weightlifting program is just learning the snatch and clean and jerk technique. Like, the overhead press can be a great exercise for learning the push press and jerk, but to do it as like a strength exercise when you learn the Olympic lifts, it doesn't really have much value. Like, it's better to spend the majority of the time getting practice with the Olympic lifts rather than focusing on strength. Like, later on, when you get more advanced, it is good to have a block of training where you focus on strength, so the overhead press as a strength exercise then would be more valuable. What games on Xbox or another do you like? Well, I only got an Xbox to play Kingdom Hearts 3 and Red Dead Redemption 2 because they weren't on PC, and I definitely like those games. I've actually been playing like a lot of games recently. I just finished playing Persona 5 and Resident Evil 2, and I think I'll play Devil May Cry 5 next. One game I always play is Overwatch, and like, that never gets boring to me. How to improve your front rack clean receive position for where you have poor elbow mobility. This is something I actually struggled with a lot, and over the past few months it has really improved. And like, the best way to improve like your rack position is just to do the rack position itself, like do rack holds. What I found works best for me is like rack holds with straps on and front squats with straps. And front squats with straps, it's really good for like maintaining upright torso in the front squat, and it's good for preventing like upper back rounding in the front squat as well. And that's like an issue I always had with front squats. So it's one of my favorite accessories because it's so good for mobility and strength. So I definitely recommend those exercises before your training sessions. Like, for example, if you have a session where you have to do clean and jerks, it can make a huge difference. Of course, there's a lot more like mobility exercises you can do to improve the rack position, but rack holds is definitely the exercise you need to spend the most time on. It's the most important, and it's definitely the most effective. How many injuries have you dealt with so far in your weightlifting journey? Quite a lot, I guess, but nothing really serious. The worst injuries I got was knee tendonitis and a pinched nerve. Like, currently I'm dealing with a wrist injury and some problems with my hips. And sometimes I get occasional back and knee problems, but not that often these days. The thing is, like, injuries are like very common in sports. Like, it would probably be impossible to find a top level athlete that isn't injured in some way. Like, is it healthy? Probably not long term, but like, if I was to just lift for health reasons, I would probably train once per week, and it would definitely be impossible to gain strength doing that. There's a few short questions here. The first one is, have you ever tried low bar? I actually have tried low bar in the back squat, and it actually suits me better, I'd say, but it really doesn't have any benefit for weightlifting, so I don't see any point in me doing it for now. What music do you like? Mostly metal. Some of my favorite bands are Catatonia, Firewind, Iced Earth, Testament, Gojira, Mercenary. There's a few others. I actually like Sitwave as well. I actually have 2 playlists on Spotify if you guys want to check them out. Who is your favorite YouTuber, not fitness? It's definitely Tirzu. Like, I really like that channel. It's just an awesome idea, and he makes awesome content. So I definitely watch like all his uploads. What variations of the snatch and clean and jerk would you suggest for a beginner? For beginners, it's best that they just break the snatch and clean and jerk down into simple drills. So things like tall muscle snatch, overhead squat, hang power clean, and push press, and like other exercises. I went over all these drills on a video on Omar's channel that we made a long time ago, so I definitely recommend checking out those 2 videos. So once you learn the basics of the snatch and clean and jerk, the variations you choose really depends on the portions of the lift that you kind of struggle on. So for example, if you're struggling with the speed under the bar in the snatch, then something like hip snatches and drop snatches would definitely be good variations to do. So last question is there any chance of creating a training program based on your routine? A couple of people were actually asked me this. I actually made some programs on my website and Patreon, and actually Gravitas have made a big update recently, and it includes my program integrated into their app. And for people that are unaware, it's basically an app where you can track your training and communicate with your friends. So the fact that my program is on this app, it just makes it extremely easy to follow my program, and it doesn't require you to like awkwardly like use an Excel file or read a long PDF to get started. So just to show you guys how it works, you just simply enter in your maxes and you're ready to start the program. The program also includes example videos and tips on certain exercises. Also, there's a couple of other programs on the app if you're interested. Currently, Gravitas is on iOS, but soon it will be on Android. And if you don't have an iOS device, you can still get my program on my website. And I also offer coaching on my website if you're interested.